everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Talkoffame podcast. And today I'm introducing you to Marlisha Applewhite. Marlisha is an author, content creator, mental health advocate, motivational speaker, so basically all around interpreter. Her career path focuses on the importance of mental health while sharing her own testimony of how she battled with major bipolar depression and anxiety. She created a short film called Cut Deep that can relate to her short autobiography covered Scars. She's created these two projects to not only help her share her story, but to bring more awareness to mental health the best way she knew how to when it came to social media. Thank you so much for joining us. I read everything you've been doing, and it's literally absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to kind of discuss a little bit
Thank
more
you.
detail about it.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, you have you in your story you talked about overcoming depression and anxiety, but and you shared that a lot about in your autobiography and your short film, but what is kind of your story of overcoming depression and anxiety if people are not familiar?
So with my personal story, I feel like overcoming depression. Well, I still have my days with it, but I know how to manage it versus how I was when I first had to recognize what it was that was going on with me. So when I first dealt with depression and found out what it was that was going on with me, um, it took a toll on me because, like a typical teenager, because I found out about it when I was a teenager, and then I just went into like a dark space in my life. And when I say dark space, that means now I wanted to be around people, thinking about taking my life, um, taking medicine, drinking, and just doing things that I felt was gonna help me. And at the end, it was not helping me. It was just making things worse. So it took a moment for me to like try to take my life, for me to have to go to Lakeside for a few days, and it helped me like regulate and try to figure out what I need to do to help me. Because at the time I did have a child. I do have a child. She's 11 now, but I was a teen mom, so I had to get me together in order to be there for her. So
Oh wow, that's crazy. Being a young teen mom while dealing with that is so strong.
yes,
Like, of course, with me, I'm only 17 years old, and I know for me, I've dealt with anxiety and depression my whole life. Well, not depression. I got kind of depressed years ago during the pandemic. That's a whole different story that can go
yeah,
on another different part. But I know when you deal with anxiety and depression, it can really lead to like suicidal thoughts, anxiety, willing to do maybe drinking or do something that's not right for you. I know you kind of said a little bit that has happened to you during that experience. And of course, being a teen mom also helps you, okay, like I'm a teen mom. How can I make
definitely.
my life better for my daughter or son? If because of course when you're going through that time, you never know how it's impacting your child or your family member.
Right. Yep. So it took a toll on me only because I wasn't my healthy self. Meaning we all have like moments in our life where we're not really our best self, and it caused me to have broken bonds with people that I love, and caused me to take a step back as far as from everybody because of what I was bringing to the table, as far as like my character, my personality, my ways of whatever I was doing
Yeah.
to harm them, not physically but mentally.
And that's really what anxiety and depression really helps you like deals with because of course with anxiety and depression it affects you physically and also mentally. I know with me, anxiety and depression, whenever I'm in one of those moods where I'm just like out of it, I know I just want to stay in my room and stay in all day and not do anything. And just physically, it can be just physically exhausting to the point you're just like, I don't want to do work. I just want to sleep all day. I don't want to do
Right,
anything. And it's really just exhausting, even though you're not doing anything all day. And that's really a big symptom I know of anxiety that I have dealt with is that like it can be exhausting even though you just slept or laid down all day doing nothing. It could just
right,
be physically exhausting,
right.
a symptom of it.
Yeah.
But like after you kind of realized that this was happening to you, like how did you kind of start being honest with yourself about your journey with mental health?
Um, I started writing. Like I started writing like how I feel, helping me understand my own feelings. Because sometimes in life we don't really understand how we're feeling at the moment. But like once you kind of like write it down, or however it takes for you to understand you, that writing was one for me. Like writing and reading what I'm writing to help me align with my mind of what I'm actually saying or want to say in my mouth, but it's on paper. So actually
Mm.
taking a look at what I'm writing and visualizing and understanding what it is that I'm going through. So
Yeah, I know writing is such a big tool for me as well. I know I helps a lot of people I know as well when I talk to people. And I feel like the top answer I hear from people is writing because of course with writing, you can do it whether it's on your computer or, of course, a notebook, a journal, whatever it is. Like with technology, you can do it basically anywhere. So with that, like you can write your feelings down and you just express yourself without having to explain it to other people, which is that's kind of the reason why I love writing so much is that like you let your emotions out. It's basically you and the book,
yes,
basically. You don't
yeah,
have to
yeah,
kind of explain yourself to people. You just explain it to your own self because you're the one that's dealing with it, which is
right,
I kind of feel like writing is much easier. I don't know if it's for you as well, but much easier for me. Of course, when I'm explaining, 'cause I'm a bad explainer. So I feel like with that, it's much easier to kind of realize your feelings in that moment rather than having to explain it to someone, whether it's a therapist or maybe a family member.
yeah. Because sometimes we might feel like a person won't understand us as well as we understand ourselves. So like that's one big thing for me with writing.
Mm,
I like to write to because I know I can understand me, even if nobody else understand me. So that's
exactly.
why I turned my journal into my book, which was called Cover Scars. So Cover Scars is basically about everything that I've dealt with in the inside versus what you can see visually. So
Ooh, I did not know that. Like you, so you basically just, turned your stories and what you wrote in a book into an actual thing that you publish? Or is it kind of like, did you just kind of made those things into and putting it into like an actual story type of thing?
well, I do have the journals that I used to write in growing up, and as an adult too. So that's all I did. I just took took the whole process and turned it into a book and made it my short autobiography. Um, I would say I was kind of nervous with sharing my story because I do have some dark moments, and some moments that people probably would be ashamed to share. But I mean, I did it, and it helped a lot of people. It helped men and women and even young people. So that was a step for me, and I feel like it's time for some more, even
Yeah.
within myself. So
Definitely. Like, I'm so glad you were kind of, kind of pushing yourself to really publish it. Because of course, I know with like sharing your story, what you dealt with can be very difficult. Hearing from so many people that dealt with anxiety and depression, it can take so much courage because of course, like you are afraid what to say. You're afraid because people might judge you, or you're afraid that people are gonna, see like, okay, why did she deal with that? Like, what is like kind of like just judging based off of what you feel, and that's not normal, even though it can be normal. And it does take a lot of courage to be able to be like, okay, even if people judge, at least I'm actually publishing it in case people are doing the same thing and making them feel less alone. And I feel like that's the most important thing in terms of publishing something like that, especially in mental health. Because of course, people are dealing with mental health, whether it's anxiety or depression, and they're feeling the exact same emotions as you do during that time. It can make them feel, okay, this person is doing the same exact thing. Like, I feel like I should talk
yeah,
about this now. Like, that sort of thing, which
right.
is the best thing about books. I don't know why, but I'm a big book geek. So I'm like, okay, this is my type of area.
It helps. I think sometimes sharing your story, no matter what you're facing, it helps others, even if you don't help them. Like right away, it helps them in the process of to begin starting a journey for their own self to recover from whatever it is that they're going through. So I like when people share their stories about many things that they're facing because you never know who might need it or can relate to it. So,
Yes. And of course, with anxiety and depression, everyone can deal with different symptoms. I know everyone is different. Some people are similar, some people are different. Who knows? Every anxiety, depression comes in different ways. But what symptoms did you kind of, face while during that period? Because I know every person, like I said, is different, but what kind of symptoms did you kind of face during that period?
um, I was always angry. This
Mm,
one big thing. I was always angry. I wasn't angry at the world. I was just angry at myself, not really understanding myself at that time. I was draining myself. So, and it was hard for me to let go of a lot. So, I will say the biggest symptom for me is being angry, like
mm.
angry, and didn't want to be around. So, I was isolating. So, angry and isolating myself was a sign for me to know that, like, oh, yeah, something is going wrong or something is wrong. So, those were the two main things that I noticed within myself.
That's honestly like the same way, like the same things I have dealt with, honestly, like when I was going through that period of pandemic, because honestly, when I was dealing with the high lows of anxiety, depression, where it's like, oh, I'm having a rough day, I'm angry, I'm just having a rough day. I noticed that my biggest pet peeve that I learned, which I absolutely hate, is lashing out at people for no reason, which
Yeah,
is like,
this is what I
okay,
do.
or just, isolating myself and letting my emotions just slip away, even though I should talk about it. Like, which I love that you said that because I haven't really heard someone say anger and lashing out. So I'm glad you literally said that because I'm like, okay, is this a thing or is this me? But I'm like, I know a lot of these people deal with lashing out. And I'm just like, even if I'm not dealing with anxiety, this is part of life. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
But like, of course, for mental health, I know everyone defines the importance of mental health differently. And of course, mental health, it comes in different ways for people. But how do you define mental health? I know everyone defines it differently. Everyone has different definitions. But how do you personally define it?
Me personally, when it comes to mental health, it's I want to say it's how would I describe it? I would say mental health is a three-way street, meaning you can deal with it physically, emotionally, or mentally. And by that, I mean it's not always something mentally that's going on. It could be something dealing with your emotions that causes you to have a mental breakdown, or it could be something physical that's going on in your life that can cause you to, you know, go into a mental breakdown. And then it could be some mental that can cause you to go to a mental breakdown. So it's always a three-way street far as like actually knowing like what is the root cause of like is it mental, emotional, physically, is it it's just those just the three ways that I look at it because I know I face all three of them in different ways, in different at the same time, but in different ways.
Because I know like
And
everyone defines it different ways.
yeah, I wouldn't call everything a mental illness if that makes sense. Like if you're just mean for no reason, just because that's what you want to do, I wouldn't call it they having a they got mental health issues or something like that. Because a person that knows what's going on with them will want to get help if that makes sense.
Mm,
Like you want to be comfortable. You want to be comfortable being how you are. Like if you're comfortable and okay with being mean towards people or, you know, lashing out and just feeling like just because you're having a funk day, you should take it out on everybody.
mm.
So certain things I won't recognize as having a mental health issue. So
And that is something that honestly I have done in the past is that when I'm angry or just like, okay, I'm just ready to lash out. I would scream at people. Like, I don't do that now. Trust me, I'm not that crazy if anyone's listening. But in the past, I literally started lashing out at people just because I was angry, or I'm just in the anxiety mood where I'm just feeling those depressive thoughts. And that's like, it's
Yeah,
normal if you're just dealing with those thoughts. I feel like that's the sign where you're just like, I'm ready to just punch a wall. Like that, I had those moments where I was ready to punch a wall. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a sign of, okay, I'm angry. How can I find things to calm me
right,
down? Whether it's listening to music, dancing, going on a walk, go on a run. There's many resources out there that can help you during those moments, but it's just a moment of, okay, when can I realize that I'm in one of those scenarios of having a panic attack or anxiety attack, or I'm just in a moment where I'm just like, how can I calm myself down during one of those
right,
times?
right.
And
Yep, I agree.
to circle back, you kind of mentioned earlier that you have a short film called Cut Deep that can relate to your autobiography, Courage Scars. How did you use your autobiography into your short film?
Well, it's basically just the exact same thing. I just turned my reading into a visual because some people don't like reading, so I just turned it into a visual so people can see it versus having to read it. So it's basically the same thing. It don't touch on all of the chapters, but it sums up the book.
Mm.
So it was pretty easy for me because I knew my purpose. I knew what I really wanted to highlight in the movie and how powerful I would want it to stand out so it can inspire others. Dealing with depression or anxiety or whatever mental that they're dealing with.
Like that is awesome. Like I know with a lot of people, not a lot of people, like you said, don't like reading. Like they don't like they rather just learn when watching a film or a movie or a TV show. They're like, okay, reading is boring. Let's watch a movie. Like I know I can be like that sometimes. I'm like, okay, but TV is boring. Why not just read a book? Like it's always different for me every single
Right.
day. I know some people deal with those emotions, be like, okay, reading is I just want to throw a book when I see it. Like sometimes when you people do prefer visuals over reading. So I love that you were
Yep.
able to kind of transfer your book into visuals. But how did people kind of react to the short film when you like released it? Was it kind of like a negative reaction, or was it kind of more of like a positive one?
To be honest, I'm very surprised at the outcome, only because that was my first short film, and people actually drew to it well. Like I was getting shares, I was getting comments from of YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, from like people that could actually relate and understand the message of the movie and just understanding. So it did good as far as like the input of others from the world. It was successful to me.
And I seen the snippets of the short film. I didn't see it fully, but I loved it from what I saw. And it's like, oh my God, I want to turn this off. I have to. Like, this is because whenever I'm attached to something, I always never want to turn it off. Even if I'm like one of those days where I'm just like busy and don't have time to do anything else. I had to turn it off even though I'm just like in a full blown like, okay, this is the only thing I'm focusing on. But that was honestly one of the main part like stories that I absolutely love because I like that I couldn't keep my ass off to because I love learning about these type of stories into mental health or sharing experiences. And I think you did it honestly pretty well.
Thank you. I
Before
tried.
but before we wrap up, I want to ask you, like, if people are wanting to connect with you, how can they connect with you on different things?
My Facebook is Marlisha A Applewhite. I have an Instagram. It's Director Lee with three E's in Lee. So I'm sorry, DIRECTORLEEE. That's my Instagram. My Facebook again is Marlisha A Applewhite. I also have an email for like business wise. It is attached to my bio and my Instagram, but it's Marlisha Polk, POLK at gmail.com.
Awesome. So make sure everyone to check her out. I totally recommend and her wonderful short film and book. I recommend. I definitely will buy her autograph biography after I this recording is done because I need to read that ASAP since I'm obsessed with the short films. I kind of have to now since I'm attached. But I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. And thank you everyone for listening. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this episode and make sure to stay tuned for next episode. But thank you so much, Marlisha, for joining us today. I really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.